We got a handful of viewers in here. Where's everybody else? Well, there's
hey,
one.
Chris.
Hello.
Hi, how are you doing?
I'm doing not too well.
Hey, I'm Pat.
I see a handful of people joining us by chat.
Okay.
Hopefully a few others will.
Yeah.
Of course, I've never done this before, so I have no idea what you did to attach yourself in, but it took me about 3 minutes of clicking through things to actually turn this on. So
Yeah. My laptop bricked earlier today, so I'm in the lab actually.
No.
I had to patch together a working audio-video system. There's someone else.
Mine kind of bricked about a week ago, and I've been using temporary ones since.
Yeah.
Since I was supposed to have a new one this afternoon, and it is driving me nuts that I stepped away for half an hour and missed the UPS man.
Right.
There we go. So I see Rama joined us, and that looks like Mike not maybe without video.
Yeah, I'm here, Chris.
Okay. I can barely hear you, Rama.
Yeah, I didn't speak yet. I'm just looking how to mute my video. I'm just wondering whether I should mute my video and let it speak, or is it okay to have the video on while we talk?
Yeah. Well, if nothing else, we got a good view of your ceiling fan.
I like your books, man.
Oh, thank you. A small part of the collection, I guess.
Yes.
Oh, and that looks like Max.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Oh, somebody's watching on a 30-second delay, though. Because I can hear Rama talking from a minute ago. All right. Give it 2 minutes.
Anybody hear me?
I heard somebody say something, but I don't know who it was.
I thought
Anybody hear me over here?
And that looks like Max.
Okay.
Is that you, Max? I got you. Somebody's watching on a 30-second delay, though. So have we figured out who's got the 30-second delay that I'm hearing feedback from?
I just hit mute on my microphone and it didn't go off, for what that's worth.
Yeah. And whatever it is, it's, literally 30 seconds back, so it's not too bad, but I heard somebody say something, but I don't know who it was. I'm guessing it's Max. He's got something weird going on.
Yeah, that's probably me asking if anybody can hear me. I need to get a microphone.
Yeah, you could do that. Or a headset, which I'm half to.
Yeah.
Audio quality.
Left a message to Dave.
So who else have we got? Looks like Steven joined us. Mark, Julian, and Camilo.
Yeah.
All right.
Max. Got something weird going on. Yeah, that's probably me asking if anybody can hear me. I need to get a microphone. Yeah, you can do that.
Whoever that was, I think, is who we've got. Yeah, I think it's you, Max, that we're hearing feedback from, or at least that I am. Who else have we got? Steven joined us. We got Mark, Julian, and Camilo. Mark, Julian, and Camilo. All right. Okay. Well, about 5 or 6 in, so yeah. Whoever's having, we're hearing feedback issues from 2 minutes ago. You can figure it out and square it away, or hang up and come back to us. Go ahead and do that. Is there anybody who we're not hearing from, or who can, or has audio problems? Okay. So, so we're here from 3 minutes from 2 minutes ago. From square away. Oh, there you go. Mike's got this under control. He knows what's going on.
Well, I'm trying. I feel bad muting anybody. I'm just going to try to play to see who's got what, and I'll certainly unmute somebody. But I just wanted to see what was happening. It's nothing personal, I promise.
That's okay. We'll track the feedback issue down and then square things away. So I'll presuppose that everybody has seen the website. It looks like most people have either registered or put in some information and some basic data. So we know who everybody is. I think there's over 25 people on the list, which shocks even me, because I think I only personally know maybe 6 or 7 at the very most. If I'm not mistaken, I think this will let up to 10 people include video and audio on at once. So I'm sure there's probably, or potentially, a queue of a handful of others who are out there. So if we have questions, somebody volunteer to jump off the video screen for a bit and let somebody else hop in. But I think we should be able to allow everybody on, at least through instant message, or questions off in the corner. So,
Hey Chris, do you see the Dave Sneed John here?
I don't see Dave. I think this will let video and audio on at once. So I'm sure there's probably, or potentially, a queue of
Yeah, it was Max.
Okay, I was sitting here. I just figured out how to mute people myself.
He can unmute himself though, right? Just because I mute him doesn't mean he can't unmute him. I think if he were to go.
Well,
Max, if you can hear us, can you try that? Can you try to unmute yourself? Make sure I didn't just block you entirely, because I'd feel really bad about that.
All right. Yeah, I think I just unmuted myself.
Okay, cool.
Can you hear me?
yeah, but we're also getting a feedback from 2 minutes ago from your computer for some reason.
Really? My computer?
Yep.
No kidding. Okay.
Yeah, we've been randomly muting people to figure out who's causing it, and I think it's you. I just figured out how to mute people myself.
He can unmute himself though, right? Just because I'm muted doesn't mean he can't unmute him. I think. Yeah. If you were to go.
All right. So I think,
Unmuted me, and I just clicked the unmute button.
yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, no, we can hear you fine. The problem we're having is you're throwing feedback into the loop from audio from 2 minutes ago. So when you're not actively talking, we're going to mute you out.
Hey
And
Chris,
when it disconnect and then reconnect.
ask everybody to mute their microphones and video, and that way it's easier for everyone. You can share the screen.
Well, you just did that because everybody heard you, I think, so.
All right. So I muted, and I just clicked the unmute button. Yeah. Can you hear me now? Yeah.
All right. I'm going to throw my screen up here. And hopefully everybody can see what's on my screen with any luck.
Yeah, as long as you hit that little pop-up arrow that comes up above your name, it pops up okay. I see a web browser.
Okay. All right. So let's go to do a quick walkthrough for the 3 administrative things that a few people haven't taken care of. And if everybody wants to take a shot, you can do that. So there's a participants page that has a list of everyone's names, most everyone's time zones, because there are a handful of people in Europe, I think 1 or 2 in India, a couple in Australia. For those who are active in certain areas of social media, I tried to put most of their active profiles on, including, I think the main links on people's names are their primary blog or university affiliation, and then separately RSS feeds and everything else. I think it makes general sense. But if you haven't added yourself, go to the bottom of the form, type in your name and email, your time zone, where you're at. My general thought was, since there's so many of us, and particularly those across dozens of time zones, if you have a block of an hour or 2 that you can be available to chat with other people who have questions near or around you, put in a few hours of availability. You can instant message or video chat with somebody to help them out outside of our regular meetings. Great. And then fill in the other stuff as necessary and hit submit. Everybody that's logged in and registered has the ability to, under participants, go in and log in, and you can post links, questions, whatever you have to the blog itself, which then should individually email everybody who's on the list. And if for some reason you're not seeing those things, go to the join button here and kind of log in and join. But I think almost everybody who expressed interest is signed up at this point, the best I can tell. If you have any problems, give me a call or a shout or shoot me an email. My 50 email addresses are not hard to find. But I think that's it for most of it. So I've added a quick syllabus list, and in this list, I'll throw in links as we go along for meetings. So you can go to this page, click the Google Hangout for the week, and you'll be able to find us quickly and easily, hopefully. There's a whole bunch of course resources I've dug up and thrown in, including our textbooks. I think I've got a fairly comprehensive list of all the category theory videos that exist on YouTube. Primary among them is a group called the Catsters, which includes Eugenia Cheng and their series, as well as kind of a mini syllabus of what they've got. There's kind of 2 open courseware projects I'm aware of. If anybody knows others, email or put in a post and I'll link those in. There's a handful of professors that have old syllabuses online, lots of freebies and texts and whatnot. And then there's a handful of popular science people. So if you're in the group and you have no math beyond, I don't know, high school algebra maybe, pick up one of those books and read through it quickly, and then I think hopefully for the most part everybody will be able to catch up and join in. So are there any general basic questions? Or have we lost everybody?
No, I think everything's good, at least on this end.
And everybody in general, I presume, has read at least a little bit of the text so far?
I had read up through chapter, I think, section 2.3, so I guess all of chapter 2. So it was actually kind of interesting. I haven't actually done math like this in a long time, so it's kind of, I mean, I don't know, different, I suppose.
So I presume at this point most everybody is on that can be on. But if we want to go around the horn, starting, I guess, maybe with on mine from right to left, Stephen falls first. Or if he can't unmute himself quickly enough, maybe Rama can go through, give yourself a quick introduction. My name, obviously, is Chris. I've tried to throw most of this together in last week, and I'm shocked that as many people have responded as have. But I started out as a biomedical and electrical engineering at Johns Hopkins, and then with a group of probably 5 or 6 familiar faces I see here, I've been studying various forms of math for the last 8 or 9 years. And category theory is completely new to me thus far, so that's who I am and a little of my background, I guess. Stephen, you want to give yourself an introduction?
Hi. I'm just a programmer from Brisbane, and interested in functional programming and that type of thing, and that's how I've gotten involved in trying to understand what category theory is. I guess in particular, I'm interested in type theory, and there's this new type theory called HOT, H-O-T-T, homotopy type theory, and it's somewhat related to category theory is my understanding. So I'm trying to read some stuff, and it's all pretty difficult. So, but I've read the introduction and part of chapter 2, and I've found this so far the easiest to digest.
I think
that's it from me.
The little I know about HOT really is that it's Rama's middle name, as well as a good description of his physical appearance. So we'll let Rama introduce himself next if he's still with us.
Yeah, I'm very much here. My name is Rama, and Chris and I go back quite a bit because we formed this group before. My background was in chemical engineering and did a master's in an institute called IIT Kanpur and did an MBA from IIM Bangalore. I got interested in advanced mathematics about 20 years back, and along with Chris and others, we do a lot of studies in advanced mathematics. And somebody was mentioning already topo theory and all that, and there's some excellent books. I think Chris must already gleaned them from his list and put them out there. There's one free book. I'll send the group an email on that from that one, which is very good. I shared with Dave this morning. So that's me. Hello, everybody.
Patrick's next up on the list. And then Mike Knott.
Sure. Can everyone hear me? Can you hear me? Great. So I'm Pat ONeill. I want to say thanks to Chris and for hosting this, and to everyone else for joining me.
And Rob, Mike, and there's a few other people in the background who've been noisier than would appear.
Yeah, great. Excellent. So my undergraduate training was in math, and I jumped ship to computational biology for grad school. And I've always been interested in category theory, and I'm especially excited to do Spevak because it promises some explanation of how category theory puts food on the table for working scientists, and that's something very dear to my heart. So I'm looking forward to it.
Mike, you're up next.
Oh, cool. Hey, this is Mike. Along with Chris and Rama, I've been doing some classes at UCLA for a while through Dr. Miller's courses. I do IT work for Bank of America, a lot of programming, a lot of computer stuff, a lot of problem solving. So any kind of math stuff is always fun to go dive into. I seem to find new ways to apply some of this stuff along the way, or bore people in meetings, whichever. So no, I'm just doing this because it sounds interesting. There's some database theory applications that sound kind of cool with this. Someone else mentioned type theory. Brian Pierce has a couple of good books about that as well. Some tie-ins for category theory and type theory. And my Haskell is very poor, so this might help me out with that a little bit. So that's it.
And now we'll risk Max coming back with his wonky audio.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. Yeah, I got into math mostly through English, oddly enough. Studying Lacanian psychoanalysis, he uses a lot of topology to try to pathological objects. And I've been part of an organization called PLACE, Psychoanalysis Los Angeles, California Extension, that and I started attending Mike Miller's classes to actually try to learn this stuff in a real academic setting instead of a clinical setting. And for the mathematician, I think it's called, something like that. Can't remember. I love category theory. I don't really quite understand it. My math is pretty terrible, actually. It always usually falls apart in the practice, but I'm really excited about it, and glad to be here.
Who's next? Mark's next, I think, and then Julian after that.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah, I got you, at least.
My name is Mark. I dropped out of a math undergrad program about 3 years ago, and I've been doing research independently since then. And most of my interests are distributed around the fields of physics and cognitive science and computation, and all of those pretty reliably led me to category theory. So I've been studying category theory as a kind of unifying language for those things for about 3 years or so. And I've been trying to convince people of what Spevak is trying to tell people for a while now, that scientific concepts are most usefully clarified and conceptualized with category theory. So I'm excited to see what the actual response of actual non-mathematicians to this kind of treatment would be.
After him, Julian, you're up. Yep. So Julian's, I think, without a microphone, so we'll throw it to Daniel and then Camillo after that.
Hey everyone, my name is Daniel. I'm a graduate student at UTA, that's in Texas. Woo. I studied mathematics. In my undergrad, I used to really like abstract algebra, but somehow I got into numerical analysis, so I'm completely jumped ships to more applied stuff. I don't even know how I found this hangout group, the study group and everything, but here I am. I teach college, and that's about it.
Well, I assume everybody else can see it, but Julian threw up a little chat. He's a programmer with an interest in category theory, is more about general foundations rather than the functional programming side. So he'll hopefully have a microphone next time. Although I guess honestly, microphones are really only useful if you want to ask a question in person. Otherwise, you could, throw up anything into the group chat, and hopefully we'll all be able to see it, notice it, and reply to it as necessary. And with that, I think Camillo's the last in line there.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you.
Okay. I did my undergrad in math. I'm now doing a PhD in Minnesota in economics, so I'm not really sure how useful category theory would be, but it sounds interesting enough, and I'm with Daniel. I'm not sure how I found the group, but it sounded interesting enough.
Yeah, I've been impressed at the number of people who've either managed to find us, because I surely did not find anyone else other than the 4 or 5 people that I know directly. So, if there's anybody else watching or following along that is in the group chat, feel free to throw something up there, and I guess we can continue otherwise. So, of the folks who read through at least the first chapter or two, I guess the first question is, are there any kind of general questions that any of us can, most of us who are non-experts, I guess, at least in this particular area, can help anyone out with? Don't be shy. No. Come on, Rama, you got something, I know.
Well, one of the questions I had in chapter 2 deals with this O-logs. Very interesting concept. I have not encountered this before. Did you see this before in your bioengineering background, Chris?
I haven't seen it. I've heard the word maybe once before, and it's. I think somewhere in there he defines it as something he's made up himself,
Okay.
which I find highly entertaining. And I haven't seen any references in any of the other texts that I've picked up yet. It seems a tad wonky to me how he's kind of using English grammar and then tying it into the mathematics. But for most intents and purposes, it seems to be fairly much on the up and up, so I'm not too overly worried about that. And I have a feeling once we kind of enter into chapters 3 and 4, and certainly by the time we get to 5, we'll be into some hardcore math for math's sake.
And I have one more question for the especially software type of people in this group. He's talking of types in the chapter 2. Is it like does it really tie in with the classes, objects we see in other programming languages? Is it like that?
I don't know if I quite understand what you're asking, or if I missed part of that in the middle.
No, there's a concept called a type he introduced in the chapter 3. Different types and all that, right?
Yeah.
I'm just trying to understand the law, why he's just, type is something that's also used with the software engineering to model the objects at large and do that. And I'm just wondering, is there some similarity between what he has done there and what the software engineering did? Mike, perhaps you can jump in and sort of give your feedback. I think you know something in Haskell.
I didn't read chapter 3 yet. what I did put over there, I popped a link into the chat window. I found this the other day. There's an MIT OCW, the Open Courseware course that they did on this book actually, and so there were some projects or presentations people put together up there. So they had some more discussions about OLOG on there. If you guys are curious about that.
Oh, okay. No, that's nice. That's nice. In fact, I picked up my book from that same site, but I not looked at other ones, so I'll look into this one. Thank you.
Cool.
Oh, and it looks like Mark in the chat mentioned his supposition is that the types he's defining are the types from type theory. But my programming background doesn't go as far as knowing what that is, other than a word he uses. I take for granted will pop up later.
Sorry, Mark, did you say that the types of O-logs are not the types of type theory, or that they are?
He's playing shy. You're following the chat, I hope.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I just saw it.
Because it doesn't seem too far out there, right? That you might attempt to draw a correspondence between the two. I'm looking at section 2.3.1, right? So Spevak exemplifies types through people or automobiles, or a pair such that a pair AW such that A is an automobile and W is a woman. That doesn't seem too far off.
No, Nosa. So I presume everybody's got at least enough fact, I don't think he even got very far, even in the set theoretic presentation portion. Most set theory classes, I think, will probably cover more set theory than he did even in the first chapter and a half. Because he didn't even pop up with any of the, the more balky words of describing the harder parts of set theory. I think he gets to them later on, but I think most of it was squared away. For those that are interested or want them, MIT was kind enough to send me a whole bunch of additional problems that are part of the instructor's manual portion. If I can forward those along or share those problems with those who want to delve into them and plug through them. So if you want to shoot me an email, I can share those. So.
Maybe like, is it worth doing a couple chapters at a time, doing it that way and bust it out, or how do you guys want
to? What do you mean in terms of, Mike?
I don't know, just in terms of, I don't know. It seems better if we put like a little bit of a hook on here, or something that we got to do, right, to make us do it. I don't know. So is it worth like picking? I mean, if you look through, it's kind of silly having because since this book has all the solutions in it anyway, right? It's kind of I mean, it's going to be useful to work through some of those, but I don't know how much we're going to have. Would it be worth grabbing a couple per chapter from that you find and send them out to us, right, to have us look at or whatever? I don't know. Just tossing it out there.
Well, I think one of the other things, too, this book has a slower, easier start up front than most of the rest. I think Stephen Awadi's book is probably second after this, and then builds up to probably Saunders McLean's book is, one of the tougher, more dense. But I think once we get into chapter 4 or 5, we'll be able to easily dip into some of those other books for additional problems, above and beyond the ones that Spevak throws out, which will give us a little more material to play around with. Okay. But I presuppose most are actually spending some time to dig through. Like Mark made a comment that McLean's book isn't just tough and dense; it's downright boring. But that's 90% or more of Springer's entire series, I think, in most cases. Every now and then you'll get a snarky writer who will throw in a few little bon mots as they go along. Usually it's pretty dull and uninteresting, but I think that's the nice part about Spevak, too, is it gives you some... in fact, I think almost every example he gave in pure science was something applicable to my everyday life and research, so to me that was, nice and interesting. But I have a suspicion that in about 3 weeks, everybody will be quite so quiet about what's going on or what they understand or don't understand. So, and I tried to set things up, hopefully in general, so that if we're reading about, 5 or 10 pages a day, we'll get through everything by the time the summer is over, as long as we don't get horrifically stuck in the mud somewhere along the way. I think we do have 1 or 2 other people we can dig up and throw into the mix to unstick us if necessary. Julian asked a question about Simmons's An Introduction to Category Theory. It's one of the few I haven't really picked up and looked through yet, but I don't know, has anybody got opinions on other textbooks that are out there? and whether they're good, bad, or indifferent. I didn't hear an awful lot of commentary or discussion, and so just kind of arbitrarily pushed Spevak because he was a little more basic than others and a little more hands-on, especially to the computer scientists and biology, physics crowd rather than the duller, drier math, which would have got us a little more stuck. So.
Yeah, I think Spevak is a good choice for this range of backgrounds. So I have no complaints, certainly.
How about you, Patrick? You hate this book, don't you?
No, I've read through it before on my own. I'm glad to go through it more carefully in a more formal, structured setting. But I certainly have no complaints. I remember when it was first out on Archive, and I was very excited to see it. Pierce is also good. It's much more compact and has, I think, so it eliminates a lot of the meta discourse that you see in Spevak, but sometimes meta discourse is good. So yeah, I'm quite excited. It's a typesetting tour de force, though. I was just thinking about the amount of just the hours that went into these commutative diagrams. I was pretty impressed.
Someone loves their latex, that's for sure.
Yeah. So.
Well, I threw a handful of things that I found that were resources for, the LaTeX aficionados. I think one of the best ones I saw that I put on that page, or a post about a week ago, was it Milna or somebody, I think? Because there's about 15 packages out there that cover a commutative diagram, some better than others, and some that do things others don't. I haven't found a really great guide indicating one way or the other. Spevak seems to, at least, he's thrown a handful of his bigger examples out into the wild, and has given both PDF output as well as the coding background that goes into it. So if somebody wants to really get their hands dirty and muddy, feel free to jump in and just go to town. I mean, I love LaTeX as much as the next guy, and I can even program my own sub-examples, but even I'm daunted at the thought of some of those. So those who aren't, I would highly recommend you just take out a piece of paper, write down the diagram you have a question about, take a photo with your phone, and post it up to the blog, and then we can comment and go from there. It's probably will take you way less time, effort, and energy over the next couple of weeks. So don't feel shy about doing that if you can't get your LaTeX install up and running. All right. So I have got not much else, and my goal is to not actually run these. It's to facilitate them, because I'm probably coming from less category theory background than at least 50% or more of the crowd that's here. So don't think I'm an expert. Rama probably knows more about it than I do.
No.
Three other people indicated that they've at least read one or more books.
Yeah, Chris, a couple of things I think Mike noted before. This book has problem sets inside the book, and one copy of it has solutions next to it. And you said you got some problem set from MIT, and are they different from what is in the book?
Yeah, they're additional, and he really ran a number on his students. So there's a bunch of additional problems. It looked to be about the same number of problems that he uses in the book as examples, that he provides as additional ones above and beyond what are in the book. And then based on what I can tell from looking at his open courseware set up from MIT, one of the assignments he gave in kind of parallel with either, it was kind of you do a project or you can work on some problems and solutions in the book. So you kind of crowdsourced students to come up with either come up with examples or solve problems from these supplementary sets. And so I think that's essentially what I've got my hands on. So I can throw those out as additional questions or problems if people want to work on them, and then we can discuss solutions.
I think that's a good idea to do that.
Or if people want to come up with their own problems as they relate to things that are, I think almost every one of us are probably working on some other side area of math or science. We can help people apply that stuff to the daily life. We can do that.
Okay.
Go ahead and bring up your questions, Stephen. Just shout it right out. Although I like these battles going off in the sidebar here.
I didn't really have a question, but I thought that there wasn't answers to every single exercise. That's what it says in the chapter 1. So there should be 300 exercises, and there's not answers for them all. And I wonder if the thing you got was actually the answers to the rest of them.
Yeah, it may be for some of them, but
right.
The parts that I've skimmed through thus far, it looks like they all have solutions in the text. And
right.
I wasn't sure if it was just the version of the text, because I bought an electronic copy versus a physical book copy. I've had 2 or 3 people mention that they have material from the quote-unquote dark web. So if there are people who want copies of some of that stuff, you can feel free to share those on the side. But my preference is to not suborn copyright infringement, particularly because most of us live in the U.S. and get into trouble for that. But it's out there if you want it, so ask or don't ask. But I didn't see or maybe it's just me not looking through all the way to the end, but I didn't see as many solutions that weren't there as were there, so.
No worries.
Anybody else got questions? Anything to add? Questions? Comments? Snyder remarks?
There was some discussion in the chat earlier. I don't actually have that chat anymore because I lost my internet connection, but it was about Bertrand Russell's type theory. I've never heard of Bertrand Russell's type theory, but there's definitely sort of this Martin Loft type theory that I think is the type theory that I think people refer to when they just say type theory. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's the types he's probably referring to in chapter 3. Either that, or I think it's called simple type theory by I think it's from Church.
Anybody else got experience in those areas? I don't, remotely, but we'll come up with it sooner or later. All right.
So I wonder whether this is what Spevak is asking us to consider at all. It sounds like he has something in mind, more like the concerns of a database modeler or a mere object-level scientist, right? Who's trying to cram the various nouns and verbs in their daily scientific practice into some sort of formal schema. And whether these informal types can be identified with a formal type theory is an interesting question, but it's probably not what Spevak's worried about. And given the various examples, that appear in the chapter. I mean, they don't seem like the same concerns that Mark and Wolf, right, is after. There are things like cars and people.
Right. Well, this Spevak, I mean, he's got some papers on categorical database or something like that. I posted a link to someone talking about those things. So he's brought it into this book, I guess. Yeah, but some of those ideas.
Yeah, so Mark has a link to NCAT Lab on this question. The relationship between type theory and category theory.
Yeah, I suppose we'll certainly get more deeply into some of that stuff as we past the raw basics of the set theory stuff.
Yeah, I don't know what the relationship is, but I came across this quote the other day. I'd read before. It was about computational Trinitarianism, and so Bob Harper, he's a type theorist, programming languages guy, and he's been working on HOT, the homotopy type theory, and he wrote a blog post about this computational Trinitarianism, and so basically it's types and categories and something else. Three things. Proofs, yeah. Logic, yeah. That's it. So there's the Curry-Howard isomorphism, which generally says that, that like types and propositions are the same thing. And then now there's this, I don't know if it's a new thing, but then there's this similarity, or even more stronger than that, between types and categories or something. But yeah, that's all I know.
Was that part of the year-long program that came out of Princeton? I saw there was a nice free text that went into very detail on.
Yes, that's precisely it. I tried to read that book. I think I read chapter 1. I might have made it through chapter 1, and that's when I realized I needed to start on something simpler.
Yeah. Yeah, I came across it probably the second day after I heard the word category theory, and then I thought, okay, part of the program needs to be coming up to speed on 10 other things before delving into something a little heavier. I think I linked it somewhere in one of the resources pages for people who are there or want to delve into the higher levels sooner rather than later. I think the tough part is, while we're getting the administrative nonsense out of the way, there's not too much until we get into chapter 3 and 4. We're actually doing some actual math, so hopefully have some fun, juicy bits, over the next couple of weeks. Anybody else have any other questions, comments? Otherwise, we'll sign off for tonight and hopefully actually go through a little bit of math on Monday. I didn't hear any complaints or issues with Monday as a date and time, but if you do post something on the site or mention it, and then we can figure it out, because I want to try and keep as many of us from the start to the finish as we can. But, any last parting thoughts? Otherwise, we'll sign off for the week 2.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out that I'm far from an expert, but I have read the homotopy type theory book, and I probably can't answer all of your questions, but I'm definitely available for discussion.
Good. Thanks, man.
Very cool.
also kind of going back onto something we did earlier. Apparently, according to Wikipedia, Spevak came up with this in 2010, so it's like 5 years ago he came up with OLogs. So, and it kind of goes over what it's about with everything. So if you're curious, I guess maybe that's something to look at. But anyway,
Where was that at?
it was on Wikipedia. It was just apparently, I don't know. He came up with this like 5 years ago, and he decided to have something called OLogs and relate it to things. And
It looks and sounds very touchy-feely to me at the moment.
yeah,
It's not like any other kind of, hard-cut math in terms of definition, theorem proofs that most follow. But I think that to me the thing I get is category theory right now is where set theory was in the early 1900s, and it's may become kind of the new foundation of mathematics going forward. So, if anybody here wants to change their last name to Zarelmo or Frankel, we'll just be able to say we knew you win. Thanks for laughing, Mike. I appreciate it.
I got your back, Chris. I got your back.
All right. Well, that's all I got. Hopefully we'll be all good for Monday. Everybody keep reading, and because it's going to pick up and get thicker and denser. Hopefully quicker than the first 2 chapters of the book did so far. But if anybody has questions and they were not thrilled to ask them, post them up on the blog and we'll answer them as we go along. Or throw up questions, and if nobody gets an answer, then we can discuss them next week, too. Or if you see anything interesting or other resources, just throw it up and we'll sort it out as we go along. I'm too used to doing this in person with a couple of you rather than across the globe with 15 or more, so I'll let it go unless anybody has any last parting thoughts.
No, sounds good. See everyone Monday.
That was a good start. Good job, Chris.
Yeah, thanks again for putting this together.
Mike, in the back. And Rama. We're doing it for Rama's sake, really. All right, kids. Have a good week. We'll see you.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Talk to you Monday.
Later. Bye.